December 18th, ELA second marking period test. Here we go. Directions. Read the story, then answer questions 20 through 28. During the late 1400s, in Mohawk Nation territory, in a Longhouse village in upstate New York, 11-year-old Aquari spends time with his uncle, learning more about the traditions of the Native American culture. Excerpt from A Man's Cup, from Children of the Longhouse by Joseph Brew Jack. Paragraph 1, line 1. When Aquari came that evening to sit by the central hearth of the Turtle Clan's section of the big Longhouse, his clan suspected that his nephew had something important to ask, so Big Tree continued to work in silence, giving his nephew plenty of time to collect his thoughts. It was fully dark outside now, and Grandmother Moon was looking down through the smoke hole overhead. Paragraph 2. Big Tree picked up a burning coal from the fire with his fingers, lifted it unhurriedly, and dropped it into the wooden cup that he was making from a piece of hard maple. He had been working on that cup for 2 moons, and it was almost finished. Paragraph 3. Aquari watched carefully. He remembered 2 winters ago when he tried to pick up a coal as his uncle did, but only succeeded in blistering his fingertips. Big Tree's fingers were tougher than Aquari's, the calluses on them so thick that the glowing coal did not burn them. Paragraph 4. It will be many seasons, Aquari thought, before I can do the things that my uncle can do. Paragraph 5. Big Tree placed the glowing coal into the bowl of the cup and nodded to his nephew. Aquari leaned forward. This job was one that he could do now. He could help his uncle finish hollowing the bowl by blowing on the coal through the thin, hollow branch of a sumac. Aquari blew, and the coal burned, with a sound like that of a tiny storm wind, reddening the blackened wood, burning the hollow deeper. He moved the sumac branch as he blew steadily, puffing his cheeks in and out as he blew, making sure that the coal moved around the bowl evenly to make the inner shape of the cup just right. His uncle raised a hand, and Aquari stopped blowing. The coal, which had been the size of the end of his thumb, was now a tiny spark. Big Tree took the sharp-edged scraping stone and used it to clean out the bowl. Paragraph 6. This is good, his uncle said. Now I only have to smooth the inside of this cup, and this cup will be ready to use. Paragraph 7. He held it up, and both he and Aquari admired it. The finely detailed handle was the long head of a bear. Big Tree had used his sharp knife to finish off the detail of the bear's head at the front of the cup, even making marks that looked like the fur of the bear. Then he had blackened it in the fire to harden and darken it and make it look even more like a bear. Paragraph 8. Who will be the owner of this cup, my uncle? Aquari asked. Paragraph 9. A man who needs it, his uncle replied with a smile. Paragraph 10. Aquari nodded. Every man owned a cup such as that, usually with some design on it which indicated his clan. Your cup, which would be hung from your belt, could be used for dipping up drinking water when you were in the forest. Paragraph 11. Dipping water with a cup was a wise idea, for you could remain watchful and alert while doing this. If you had to lean down and drink with your mouth from the spring or the stream, an enemy or a dangerous animal could creep up unseen. You also could thrust the cup deeper under the surface where the water was cleaner and colder. Then, when you were back at the Longhouse, you could use your cup to sip soup from the pot when the food was ready and your hunger told you to eat. Paragraph 12. Aquari already had a cup of his own, a small one made of soft basswood that hung on his belt. But that cup was plain and chipped, and it was not well carved. It was a boy's cup. It was useful, but it was better to have something that was useful and beautiful. Paragraph 13. A quarry put the sumac blowpipe back on the shelf above his uncle's bed. Like all things that would be useful to more than one person, it was kept in plain sight. That way, if anyone in the village had need of it, they could simply take it and return it when they were done. Truly personal things, like a quarry stone with its 2 beautiful crystals, were kept out of sight in the bark boxes under everyone's beds. No one would ever look under another person's bed. Paragraph 14. A quarry came and sat back down by his uncle, who continued to work on smoothing the inside of the cup. Paragraph 15. Uncle, a quarry said, I think it's time for me to build a lodge. 16. Big Tree continued to work on the cup without saying anything in response. Paragraph 17. I do not mean that I think it's time for me to move away from my mother's hearth, a quarry said. I know that it is still 2 or 3 winters before it will be time for me to do that, to go and live on my own. But I think that it would be good for me to make a little lodge and sleep in it some nights. It would be a good way to learn, a good way to make myself tougher and stronger. Paragraph 18. A quarry's words were true. In another few winters, he would be expected to move out of the Longhouse, to no longer live near his mother. Then he would need to know how to care for himself. Every boy came to this time in his life when he was expected to go through a whole year of the hard training needed to be accepted fully as a man. He would find a place outside the village and build his own lodge, sleeping there every night, although he could still return to the big Longhouse and take meals with his family. He would truly be responsible for himself. Now, questions from the passage. Excerpt from A Man's Cup, from Children of the Longhouse by Joseph Brew Jack. Here are the questions. Number 1, which quote best shows that a quarry is responsible? A, who will be the owner of this cup? My uncle, a quarry asked. Does that show a quarry was responsible? B, Uncle, a quarry said, I think it's time for me to build a lodge. Does that show that a quarry was responsible? C, I do not mean that I think it's time for me to move away from my mother's hearth, a quarry said. Does that show that a quarry is responsible? Or D, so Big Tree continued to work in silence, giving his nephew plenty of time to collect his thoughts. Does this show a quarry is responsible? Number 2. How does the forest setting shape the actions that are described in paragraph 11? How does the forest setting shape the actions that are described in paragraph 11? I'll read paragraph 11 and then we can decide. Paragraph 11. Dipping water with a cup was a wise idea, for you could remain watchful and alert while doing this. If you had to lean down and drink with your mouth from a spring or a stream, an enemy or dangerous animal could creep up unseen. You also could thrust the cup deep under the surface where the water was cleaner and colder. Then, when you were back in the Longhouse, you could use your cup to dip soup from the pot when the food was ready and your hunger told you to eat. Question was, how does the forest setting shape the actions in the paragraph 11 that I just read? A, the setting causes a person to be very careful. B, the setting causes a person to make a lot of noise. C, the setting causes a person to sing and yell. Or D, the setting causes a person to feel relaxed. You can pause this while you answer the question and then play again when you're ready for the next question. Number 3, what important idea does the author develop in paragraph 13? I'm going to read paragraph 13 and then we're going to answer. What important idea does the author develop in paragraph 13? Paragraph 13. A quarry put the sumac blowpipe back on the shelf above his uncle's bed. Like all things that would be useful to more than one person, it was kept in plain sight. That way, if anyone in the village had need of it, they would simply take it and return it when they were done. Truly personal things like a quarry stone with its beautiful crystals were kept out of sight in the bark boxes under everyone's beds. No one would ever look under another person's bed. 3. What important ideas does the author develop in paragraph 13 that I just read? A. People don't respect each other's privacy in this community. B. Wealth and social status are the most important thing in the community. C. Sharing with others and respect for others is important in this community. Or D. People can't trust each other in this community. Remember, you can pause this while you answer the question. Hit play when you're ready for the next question. Number 4. Which quote below helps support the theme, growing up takes time, effort, and guidance from adults? Which quote helps support the theme, growing up takes time, effort, and guidance from adults? A. He could help his uncle finish hollowing the bowl by blowing in on the coal through the thick hollow branch of the sumac. B. Now I only have to smooth the inside and the cup will be ready to use. C. It was useful, but it was better to have something that was useful and beautiful. Or D. It would be a good way to learn, a good way to make myself tougher and stronger. Which one of those supports the theme of growing up takes time, effort, and guidance from adults? Story 2. The Artist's Search. Ariana put down her palette knife and took a step back from her canvas. In front of her sat her finished product, a medley of blues, oranges, pinks, and reds, a version of the sunset she had seen outside her window. It had only taken her an hour to finish the work, and she nodded her head in satisfaction. Not a single paintbrush lay near her. The young artist preferred to use alternative painting tools like string and sponges. So when she found herself alone at home with nothing to do, she grabbed a canvas, a knife, and a bunch of paint, and set her easel right in front of a window. She smeared, wiped, carved, and brushed bright colors across the blank space with the edge of her palette knife, inspired by the sunset, but not exactly copying its bright streaks and perfect blend of colors. Paragraph 2. She admired abstract artists like Wassily Kandinsky, and therefore adhered to the style more than anything else she had been taught in art class. Her teacher had shown her one of Kandinsky's most famous abstract works, Color Studies, Squares and Concentric Circles, when she first began taking classes from him. The painting is divided into 12 square sections, each with a series of concentric circles within. Although she loved the simplicity of the work, what she liked most was Kandinsky's use of contrasting colors. The circles were painted with both earthy, dark hues, as well as bright reds, yellows, and oranges. Many of Ariana's friends criticized abstract art. "What's the point?" they would ask. But she loved that it had the potential to elicit a strong emotional reaction to an untraditional image. Her painting of the sunset hardly looked like the sky. She borrowed hues from what she saw outside to create her own piece, which turned out to be a series of contrasting horizontal lines that spanned across the canvas. Paragraph 3. The next day, she brought the painting to her teacher, Marcus. "Ariana, please, I've had enough of this," he said with a stern expression. While most passers-by would have assumed he was harshly criticizing her work, he was in fact praising it. He loved her style so much that he wanted her to sell her pieces. But time after time she had declined, saying that she wanted to paint only for herself, and even though he understood, he'd become increasingly frustrated. He desperately wanted to show her work to the greater public. Paragraph 4. As the winter of her senior year of high school approached, however, Ariana found herself worrying about paying for her college tuition. Although her parents had agreed to support her financially in her studies, she still wanted to pay for her textbooks and any other school supplies, all of which would quickly add up. So this time, when Marcus let out a teasing groan upon seeing her sunset piece, Ariana cleared her throat. Paragraph 5. "All right, let's do it," she said. Marcus snapped his head up, and his left eyebrow raised way above his right. "Excuse me? Did I just hear what I think I heard?" he replied in surprise. It had been more than a year of him nagging her to sell her artwork. Ariana nodded her head slowly, trying to convince her teacher. He didn't need an explanation. Marcus was much too excited. "Yes, let's do it," he exclaimed. Paragraph 6. The next day, the two of them scoured the newspaper and real estate listings for any small open spaces that they could rent and transform into an art gallery. Marcus himself owned one that featured his friend's work in addition to his own. But since his gallery was booked through the rest of the year with various showings, he could not feature Ariana's work anytime soon. But the two did not let that deter them. They wandered around town, peering into a few possible locations and asking around about any new empty spaces. Ultimately, though, they could not find anything within their price range. Paragraph 7. After a long day of searching, Marcus and Ariana stumbled into a small local coffee shop to take a break. A waitress approached them after they both sat down and took their orders. After a long period of silence, Ariana spoke. "So what are we going to do now?" she asked, a bit disappointed about the day's events. "We'll find something without a doubt. We'll discover a way to showcase your art," he assured her. Just as he said that, the waitress returned with the drink orders. Paragraph 8. "Sorry to eavesdrop," she started, "but did you mention something about art?" Paragraph 9. "Yes, we've been looking around all day for a small space to showcase my work, but we've been having a hard time finding something that's in our price range," Ariana explained. Paragraph 10. "No way. We actually display art here. See all the pieces on the walls? Those are all from local artists," the waitress said, pointing to the nearest drawing. Ariana followed her finger to the image and noticed that the artist had employed a pointillist style, meaning that he or she had only used small dots of pure color to create an impressive depiction of an owl. "That's really beautiful," she told the waitress. "Yeah, just bring in a couple of samples of your work tomorrow, anytime between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. That's when the owner should be here," the waitress said, "and hopefully she'll agree to feature your work." Ariana thanked her profusely and gave Marcus a huge smile, then immediately walked to the studio and began to choose which works they would present to the shop's owner. Paragraph 12. The following day, Ariana and Marcus strolled into the store, lugging 4 of Ariana's best and biggest pieces of artwork at 8 o'clock on the dot. A few customers sat quietly at different tables, sipping coffee, but for the most part, the store was empty. Behind the counter, a woman with graying hair and round, red-framed glasses peered up from her book to see who had entered. "Oh, you must be the artist," she said, extending her hand to Ariana. "Lily told me that you'd be bringing in your work today. My name is Susan." Paragraph 13. Ariana shook her hand and introduced herself and Marcus. "Well, here are some of my favorite pieces," she said, and with Marcus's help, laid them on the ground for Susan to see. The owner fell silent, concentrating hard on each painting, analyzing their colors, shapes, and overall design. After what felt like forever, she looked up at Ariana. "I'd be honored to hang these in my store," she said. Number 5. Which line supports the idea that Ariana is a creative person? A. Her painting of the sunset hardly looked like the sky. She borrowed hues from what she saw outside to create her own piece, which turned out to be a series of contrasting horizontal lines that spanned across the canvas. B. The next day, she brought the painting to her teacher, Marcus. C. Many of Ariana's friends criticized abstract art. Or D. The next day, the two of them scoured the newspaper and real estate listings for any small open space they could rent. You can pause this while you answer and then play to listen to the next question. Number 6. Which of the following is a character trait for Marcus? A. Supportive. B. Encouraging. C. Determined. Or D. All of the above. Number 7. Which of the following would be considered a motif in the passage? A. Coffee shop, B. Sunset, C. Art, or D. Money? Number 8. Which character trait does the following quote support? As the winter of her senior year of high school approached, however, Ariana found herself worrying about paying for a college tuition in paragraph 4. Is that anxious, B. excited, C. angry, or D. joyous? Number 9. Why might the coffee shop be crucial to what happens next with Ariana? A. She can hang out and use their Wi-Fi. B. She can meet many artists. C. She will possibly get some money to help her pay for college tuition. Or D. She likes to drink coffee. Now the short response, number 10. Pick one of the 3 themes below and write a short response, at least 5 sentences including a claim, the theme you'll focus on, 2 or more pieces of evidence from the text which supports the theme, and reasoning about why this theme applies to your passage, the artist search. And here's the ones to pick from. Theme 1, don't give up when things get tough. There's always a chance things will work out for the best. Or theme 2, true friends are there to encourage and support each in times of need. Or 3, be yourself. Others will learn to appreciate you for your unique talents. Now we're up to the third passage. Story 3. Sam Martinez knew baseball. He couldn't count the number of Los Angeles Dodgers games he had been to. His uncle Gabriel had season tickets, and he had been taking Sam to games ever since he was 3 years old. When spring turned into baseball season, he got so excited that his parents practically had to bolt him to his desk after school so that he would do his homework before the night games. His little sisters knew that if they bothered him when he was either watching or listening to the game, they would get yelled at. Even Sam's friends tended to steer clear and tread softly